Hello and welcome back. Again, I'm Papa with TampaBonsai.com. Here to do another one of our Learn to Bonsai series of videos. This is the second video, kind of a prequel to the main series. And this particular video we're just basically going to answer a few of the questions that I receive every day, every weekend from people as they're walking by, seeing the display, or coming to visit at the nursery. Some of the questions that come up, well, probably the most common question is, how hard is it to take care of a bonsai? Well, there's actually the answer is it's not. Two main issues that most people fail at, and one, they're not providing the correct amount of sun to the tree for the species of tree that they have, and two, they're not watering the tree enough. Most of these trees really want to be outside, and out here in Florida where we're at, outside, even in a semi-shady environment, which they won't all do great in that environment, but some will, they're still going to probably need to be watered every day. The biggest issue is the soil that we use is more mineral than organic, so it does not hold moisture for a long length of time. Again, we trade off the length of time that it holds moisture, and we pick up a almost guaranteed lack of root rot and pest and decay that you get from a high organic soil. So those are the two most difficult issues with bonsai. Keep it in the correct location, watering it appropriately. If you do those two things, the tree will live. That's all this tree wants to do, is live. So if you can get those two things right, the tree will survive until the point where you can get to myself or someone else who can assist you in getting it back on track and trimming it up the way it should be. If you watch the next video, I actually will go through trimming a couple of trees and show you that it really is not that difficult. It only takes a few moments, especially on the smaller beginner level trees. Next question we get a lot of times is, can it be kept inside, or aren't those supposed to be kept inside? No, they really shouldn't be. Some of them will do okay inside. Some of the ficuses and other broadleaf varieties are a little bit more flexible. Even the Fukian tea may do okay inside, but it will probably not flower, which these do create little tiny white flowers on them. And it probably just won't be as healthy and grow as vigorously as it would outside. Plus you have a lot higher incident of pests, especially aphids on these Fukian teas when they're inside environments. They're just not drying down quick enough, and in bonsai we want them to dry down at a fairly rapid rate. Next question we get often is how often should it be watered? Well, I think I've mentioned that already. If I haven't, I'm going to. Probably every day. If you push down through the soil, you'll see it go from a lighter color to a darker color. If you do this 8 hours from now, it probably won't have a lot of darker color in there. These trees are kept outside in pretty much full sun, and usually they do dry down pretty quickly. So figure at least daily watering. If you get much more than that, you're lucky, but don't push it. You really can't overwater these trees. I don't have a pot on me, but I don't know if you can see the bottom. Well, you probably can't, but there's holes the size of your thumb on the bottom of these trees, and you get into the big pots, some of them have holes this big. So the water is going to drain through. You want to water it liberally. Don't just pour a cup of water in and walk away. You want to saturate it, wait a few moments, and saturate it again. That's why outside is a much nicer way of doing it, because you can just use a hose with a rain spigot on it. Sprinklers, I mean, you can water it any way you want. What you don't have to do is treat them like babies. They don't need bottled water. They don't need purified water. If the water's safe enough that you can feed to or let your pets drink, you know, it's fine for this. There's a few areas that may have excessively high chlorine levels or sulfur levels. There you may want to look into some other alternatives, but in general, basic tap water is more than sufficient. Next question we get a lot is how do you keep them so small? Well, basically a lot of these trees, elm is an example, bald cypress or another, these in the wild can grow 60, 80 foot tall. Elm or cypresses can top out over 100 feet. So we keep them small by keeping them trimmed. The pot does help reduce the growth rate because of the smaller root system. It does take a little bit longer for it to bring in the nutrients it needs to get real large. But the bottom line is these trees are trying to grow. You let them go unattended and they will get out of control pretty quickly. Another question we have is, are they easy to kill? Yes, they are. Just let a friend take care of one for a week and you'll see how quickly it gets killed. If you're maintaining correct practices, water them appropriately, give them the correct amount of sun, they have a strong chance to outlast us. But again, I hear it so many times that I had somebody take care of it for me for a week and it died. Well, that's a good indication that you have to stay up on top of it. So they are fairly easy to kill, but just like riding a bicycle, it seemed impossible when you first started, but then once you learn how to do it, you really can't believe you couldn't do it right from the get-go. Same with these. Once you get used to the few little hoops you have to jump through to take care of them, it is actually pretty easy to keep them going and keep them alive for quite some time. Another question that we get when people see my displays set up at craft shows or flea markets, or they come by the nursery and they see all the different varieties of species that we use is are all those trees bonsai? Well, any species of tree can be turned into a bonsai if it has the ability to branch out a little bit. I mean, some stuff that just grows as a straight trunk and has some green up on the top and may get 10 or 15 feet tall, obviously is not going to be your best alternative for a bonsai. But any of your smaller species of trees or any of the big trees that are prone to growing growth on old parts of their trunk are great potential for bonsai. You can shorten them down, shorten the root systems, develop some side branches, and have some really neat, short, little fat trees. So basically, we'll say any species can be bonsai, although, again, they don't all lend themselves to it, but very, very large selection do. Also, I'm asked quite regularly by people that are a little observant, and they ask, well, what about the roots? Are the roots going to overgrow the pot? Will we have to do something with them? Well, the answer to that is absolutely yes. You're going to need to go and repot a tree. And when I say repot a tree, it means the tree has to come out of the pot, cut the roots down. If the tree is of sufficient size, it can go right back into the same pot again. But you are going to have to thin the roots down anywhere from, let's say, 1 to 4 years. We usually tell everybody about every couple of years or so, but there are some species, ficuses are one that are just crazy root growers. They may have to be trimmed every single year. Other species that are more tolerant to being root bound, if they have larger pots, they may go 4 or 5 years. But if you've had a tree for a while and all of a sudden it's starting to be deficient and you can't remember when you've ever repotted it, chances are that's the problem. But if you ever have a question, not sure what the problem with your tree is, get with me. You can always contact me through the website, tampabonsai.com. I'm available every day, and we'll try to figure out what your situation is, get you back on track, because we want you to be very successful. This is an addicting hobby. If you buy your first tree and it dies in a few weeks, it's not likely we're going to keep you hooked on the process. But if you're successful, you're going to keep coming back. And we're going to do everything we can to assure that you are successful and keep you coming back. Another question that we have come up a lot is how often do you have to trim the trees? Well, that's going to vary from tree to tree. Some species like junipers are very slow growers. You can maybe let them go a few months without doing any trimming. Other species such as elms, Fukian teas, and many other species grow much quicker. So on a style of bonsai, I would probably say if you really want them to stay looking really, really nice at least once a week, at the very least a couple times a month, and each of your visits to the tree should only last a few moments. If you watch the next video that we do, I'll show you how to trim a couple of trees, and you'll see that it's really not that terribly difficult to trim a tree that's already been styled. Another question is how do you trim them? Well, that one I'm not going to really get into on this video. Watch the next video in this series that will show you basically how to do it. It's titled, I have a tree, what do I do with it now? That'll answer your basic questions on how to trim them. And last question that I can think of that we come up with pretty regular, although I'm sure there's thousands of them. Every time I meet new people, I come up with new questions, but how long will they live? Well, as I mentioned earlier, until you have a friend take care of them for a week. If you don't make that mistake, a lot of these species can outlive us. There's bonsai out there that are hundreds of years old. It's not likely most of us will ever end up owning a tree such as that, but they are there, and we can always aim for that. So again, take good care of it. There's no reason they can't last an extremely long time. Unfortunately, there's no way of telling they're not going to die tomorrow. That's why most of the species I try to get beginners into are species that react very quickly to conditions if they're not happy, so that within 1 to 2 days at the most, they'll start showing signs of deficiency, be it leaves changing colors or falling off or some sort of wilting, which gives a person plenty of time to get back on track, figure out what's wrong and correct it, or certainly get with us and we'll be happy to do what we can to help you along. We don't really try to sell a lot of the junipers to beginners, although it's probably the most common species and everybody recognizes it. They think that's the only tree that's a bonsai. But the problem with junipers, you don't know when they're sick, which is why we use evergreens for Christmas trees. You can whack them off at the ground and put them in a pot, and a month and a half later they still look just as fresh and new as when you cut them. Junipers are kind of the same way. By the time your average beginner or novice thinks they have a problem with a juniper, the tree's probably already dead. So I don't usually try to recommend the junipers to first-timers because there's such a high chance that they're not going to be successful, simply because they didn't notice that a problem was arising in a time frame that allowed it to be corrected. Other than that, this could be a lifelong hobby. You can pass these trees down from generation to generation. Just you have to make sure that they're being taken care of. If you're in our area and you're going out of town or you have a tree that's sick, don't hesitate to get with us. We'll tree sit for you. We'll hospital the tree. We can repot it. We can do whatever it takes to keep you going and keep you successful. That's basically what I wanted to cover in this episode. I want to try to keep these in little small bits so that it doesn't get too overwhelming. But if there's any other questions that you come up with that I did not answer, don't hesitate to get with me. Again, I'm always available through the website, tampabonsai.com. If you can't reach me, Well, it means I'm tied up working on the trees, but I'll certainly get right back with you. You guys have a great day. I hope everything goes well in the world of bonsai with you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.